Good afternoon, everyone. We will at this time start the June 6th Stanley White Recreation Center Advisory Committee meeting. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Billy Moore to offer prayer if he doesn't mind.
Good evening, everyone. Let's look to our Father. Father, we thank you and we praise you for this day. We thank you for your many blessings. And as we come together, Father, to strategically put together your agenda for this Stanley White Committee, we ask that you give us wisdom and develop strategies for victory, for favorable outcomes as we go forth. Look upon each one. We ask you now, Lord, that you would just have your way in this time. We give you thanks and we give you praise for all things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Moore. This time, everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ginger, if you will please call roll.
Yes, ma'am. Leander Morgan, Talina Massey, James Woods,
Present.
Curtis Stewart,
Present.
Bernard White,
Yeah.
Reginald Pender, Elijah Brown,
Here.
Barbara Lee, Alderman Hazel Royal,
Okay, thank you. All right, if everybody would take time to look over the minutes, if you haven't had the opportunity to so far. Know if you have any questions. Ginger, what do you have for April 18th?
No, he just said I wasn't. I didn't.
Okay.
Last thing we had was in regards to the bid, right? Right before the bid was going out the week before?
No, it was after they had already gone out. We had one before they went out, and then we had one after.
Oh, the call meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, they consider that off, okay.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a meeting and then we didn't have it and then we had a call meeting.
When the bid was awarded.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it was the same day that the bids were.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions regarding the minutes?
A second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed, the same. All right, minutes approved. Ginger. All right, so, first thing talking about on the agenda is the bid award. There was a presentation at the last board meeting by, CPL, Chris Volcano, the consultant, regarding the award, and it went to the low bidder, which was TA Lovin. The contract is in review at this time, and hopefully that'll be completed soon.
Was
Okay.
it T.A. Loving?
Yes, was the contractor. for the low bid. Let me see. Their total bid was $13,385,400.
So with the question with the bid, the figure you just gave, is that locked in, or can they come back and ask for more?
Well, I think that's part of the contract, but as far as asking for more for the base bid, they cannot.
Okay.
Okay, in addition, everybody knows the Tisdale House was moved. This week, Public Works has started clearing up some of the rubbish from the house and stuff that was left at the basement area. Gonna be filling that in and, making the area ready for, the contractor to get started with their portion, once the contract's signed. In addition to that, we do have a sign that's been ordered to, put up at the site for, notify people that is the future site of Stanley White Recreation Center. Trying to think what else. Anybody have any questions about the, contractor or anything about the site or moving of the house?
I got one question about the contractor. When the contractor come in, can I say this? He's gonna have some people that live around here working with him?
Well, it depends on who he subcontracts to. If he has subcontractors for some of the others, and right here it has listed, mechanical, huh?
Bingham's one of them, Humphrey.
Yeah, Humphrey, mechanical for the plumbing, I think.
Do we have access to that document that you have?
Yes, I can send you this. So it is, the subcontractors, Humphrey Mechanical, EL Electric Contracting, and then R.E. Bingle Sheet Metal.
Yeah, I mean, after we had several meetings, certain information that I would expect to receive, never received it. I wanted to know the difference in the amount of people that were working from New Ferndale. We talked about, first we want to make sure minorities, Latinos, and black, and make sure there's a certain amount of blacks are working, so people right here at least have a job. There's something they can do, and they can, so they walk to the job, so just, they need to work too. Other people coming from other places, being employed, making a good amount of money, and people right here, some of them still don't have anything. Everybody finds somebody right here qualified again. That's why I think about it. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. To be frank.
Well, I think that's something like that depends on the subcontractor, who they hire. But I guess we would have to contact them
That's what I want to know.
as far as, working.
Yeah, I think what he's referring to and what we talked about earlier, and even when you was, in your position when they did the front, to the old building, is in all the meetings we went to, it was a promise that they were gonna hire minorities in the community, and that's what he was asking. And every time that we come with a project and that promise is made, they never follow through with it. But from my experience with contractors, though, if you bring in subcontractors, they're gonna bring their own people. That, from my experience, every job out from Cherry Point to Campbell Jones to Seymour Johnson, they bring their own people. I work with a lot of contractors. I was on this one from New Bern, but they had their own people. When we did the YMCA, East Carolina Masonry came from Greenville, they brought their own people. They hired a few people from New Bern, because that's one of the things they had to do. But the later projects that we've been having, the promise was made and never followed through.
Well, I can't speak to that as far as who the subcontractors hire to work for them, or how the subcontractors, or they bid to the contractor, I think, separate. So, you know, that's up to the contractor who they pick for their subcontractors. But I'll do my best to get the information you're requesting once the project starts, actual construction.
So when this construction started, is the groundbreaking gonna be before then or after?
There will be a groundbreaking before actual start of construction.
When is that?
The date for that has not been set yet. It won't be set until after the contract is signed.
Will we be involved with
Yep,
that?
will you let us know?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know how much say or time you got in this, but how do you make sure minorities at least have the opportunity, because that was discussed, and I thought that was part of kind of the guidelines that they.
Well, when they send it out for bid, it's sent to all the local
Mhm.
avenues for getting it out to contractors. It's also sent to the historically underserved businesses.
Mhm. But based on the contractors the subs that you have, are any of those minorities?
I wouldn't know.
I don't think so.
What are the names of them?
Bingo is one, they're supposed to, I think they're doing roofing and stuff,
Mhm.
you know. They local,
Humphrey.
that's the only one. And I know some people that work for Humphrey.
Isn't Humphrey local too?
No, I think they're out of Jacksonville, but they do a lot of contracting on base.
So Bengals, Humphreys, and who are the other ones?
EL Electric.
EL?
EL Electric is local, or they used to be. They have a lot of contracts on base.
So who can answer that question, I guess, so we can move on?
I would probably have to talk to the purchasing department and see if they have information on each one of those to find out. Or the purchasing officer.
But based on the names you read, obviously none of those are minority companies. So how does that kind of,
No, I don't think we can make that assumption.
well, then, it doesn't seem like these, unless, I mean, obviously we don't know how they filed with the Secretary of State, but based on these names, it doesn't seem like these are minority companies. Bingo, Humphrey, and EL Electric, I'm not minority.
Well, until I know for certain, I mean, I don't want to assume
I
that
got you.
they're not.
So then how do you get back with us or the community so that folks, because that was definitely said, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this and drag it out, but it seems like we shouldn't just push that under the rug. That's something that should happen. Like if folks said, hey, we're going to hire some minorities, then it would seem like that should happen, right?
Yeah, but I'll find out, and then I'll get back with you guys.
Plus, it's a federal contract, so my understanding on federal contracts, so many minorities.
The contractors have to employ so
So
many
many
minorities,
right.
but that doesn't mean that they have to be minorities that live in New Bern.
Well, I'm not specifying New Bern, I'm saying minorities in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do, that's a requirement.
If I, the way I feel right now, and what you said, that's true, it don't necessarily have to be in New Bern, but I really don't appreciate a person coming here building anything. Getting like that, and then and the people that live here are not gonna be able to get a job if you don't last them much, 6 months or a year. You know, that's like not feeding them. Ain't gonna change it, I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna fight it, take it.
Okay, any more information or questions regarding that? I'll see what I can find out regarding the actual minority of the contractors, subcontractors, and their requirements for the number of minorities that work for those businesses.
The only thing I have is, I just request, and you're finding out, as soon as possible, not weeks, you know.
When
as
you
soon as
gotta do to
possible.
have the contract signed, the one that they presented you guys?
I don't know if I have it with me, but a couple of weeks, I think.
You
Once
said-
it's done being reviewed, they have to review it, and then it'll come back to us.
But sometime in June.
Mhm. All right, next thing on the agenda, we did submit an application for rural transformation grant in May, I think it was May 3rd, requesting $950,000 to go towards the construction of Stanley White Recreation Center. And the award on those grants will be made on June 16th.
And how much was it awarded for?
We won't know until they
The
send out.
16th?
Yeah, but 950,000 was requested.
Well, we're gonna get that.
Well, and again, I don't want to make confrontational conversation, but is this not kind of the spinoff to the Pepsi grant?
It was, we did apply for it because it had to be a shovel-ready project, and the Pepsi Museum was not.
We put you in the most uncomfortable conversations, I know it, but how is it $950 now? They were saying the reason why they couldn't use it is because they couldn't get the $950.
But I think they said that they didn't have a spot. for
That
the
has
Pepsi.
nothing to do with the amount, the reason they didn't apply. The reason they didn't apply is because they didn't have a shovel-ready
It
project.
was a double-edged sword.
I'm the one that submitted the grant, so I know what was required, and they did not have what they needed.
Well, they didn't have again, the board couldn't come to a conclusion on where they wanted it to go.
They
They
still wouldn't have
also-
had it, you had to submit architectural plans that had already been approved, which they would not have had for the Pepsi Museum. We did have for Stanley White.
I got you.
I have a question.
I'll bring y'all the documents
that's
I have
okay.
to
I get
submit
it.
if you wanna look at
No,
them.
but I mean,
I get it.
it was I was in the meeting, I listened to the board go back and forth about it, but it is what it is. I mean, the money's gonna be used, but they were saying that they could not get the money either. That was one of the things that Bobby continued to talk about. But say we can't get, it's not gonna be, it's half the money now because we waited so long, we don't have the things together. You don't remember that conversation? It's public.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with submission of the grant and the amount of money that could be requested.
I got you.
My question is, if they get that grant, is any of that's gonna be used on the upgrade of the old Henderson Park, anything out there? Or
We-
they had to all be?
We already have funds in place for the upgrade of Henderson Park.
I see they started working on it.
We have FEMA funds for that.
And when is that gonna start taking place?
It's already
It's
started.
They've, put the poles up for the new shelter and starting to grade the ground under that.
It started last week, the installation of the shelter.
So, we discussed it the other day, at the site. In regards to, FEMA and the flood, situation out there. The elevation of the bathrooms and the shelter is not that high. So in relation to that, how is the rule with the handicap thing you were telling me about? How did that relate
How does it relate?
to the elevation? You were saying it had to be,
In order for something to be ADA accessible, which is a Department of Justice requirement, you have to meet certain measurements, slope, grade, for accessible routes into restrooms.
right,
So what, does that answer what you were asking?
that part I already knew, but I was saying because of the area, the building was moved because of the flood and the water.
Right.
So I'm saying you're putting the bathroom lower than the other city bathrooms,
No, they're gonna be elevated
but you said.
minimally, but they're also gonna be flood proof.
Right. I heard that part. So that's what I wanted to find out.
One other question I had, out there in Henderson Park, are they gonna tear down all the other shelters, or they gonna leave one or two of them up, or the oldest one out?
I believe the intention is to leave the biggest one and possibly remove the two small ones to make room for the playground extension. Okay, anything else regarding Henderson Park?
What is the, do you have the most updated sketch to that, or is that just still the same one?
For,
That's what we received?
for Henderson Park, the one I have is still the same initial concept.
Okay. And then what's the time, is there a timeline on those amenities in the?
As quick as we can get it done.
So like, for instance, was this how long ago was it planned to put the shelter out there last week, I guess? Was that kind of like, hey, we got the staffing to do it now, or was it?
It was the next project on the list once we got done with Pleasant Hill Community Center.
So I guess my question is, are folks just actively working on Henderson Park now, or this is gonna be a one-off situation and come back to it?
As long as we have the resources already to continue, it will continue the work out there. Unless there's an emergency that we have to pull off for something else, you know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, two more things. I think like 3 months ago, maybe, might have been longer, I had asked about extending another court beside the one that's present. And I walked it off, and it has ample enough room for another court the same size as the one that's existing now. And also I asked about changing the back doors to glass. Because I mean, we're a big city, and Vansboro, Maysville, and these other little small towns, they don't call themselves city, and they have state-of-the-art equipment on the playground, on the courts. And I think because we starting fresh at Henderson Park, we not only need things out there, but we need good things out there. And it don't look good to me. Not every time I drive by, it looks bad. Some of the community is coming to me, telling me the same thing. And the last thing is, I don't know what type of court the floor was supposed to be in, rubber or whatever it's supposed to be in. Whatever it is, it's only been out there for a few months, and it's already peeling off.
Yeah,
So we need to do something about that.
yeah, we have noticed that, and Mr. Hooks has already got a plan for redoing that. I don't know if it was something in the product or what had previously been on that slab, but it is causing issues. Yeah.
No, that's not. It's concrete and it's smooth. They got to put some kind of adhesive heat to that.
Okay.
And so that's the only thing that's gonna make it stay there. We used to do it all the time on base.
All right, anything else regarding Henderson Park?
What's the next project after the shelter?
We're gonna start tearing out the old fitness equipment, and those other two shelters, and I'm not certain, but I'm gonna say that the restrooms would be the next.
So, can we go ahead and, start on demolition on the old ones, because we're not gonna use them anymore, so.
Once he gets done with the installation of the new one, he
Get
will.
taken down.
That's what I said, removing those and the old fitness equipment.
Okay.
Or you just gonna do away with the fitness equipment?
No, we're gonna put new back there. Okay. All right, and then the last thing I have is, we had previously talked about doing a survey, trying to get input on programming for the Stanley White Recreation Center when it opens. And we have the survey ready to go, but we would like to set up a table at Juneteenth so that we can work on getting information from the community about what they want to see. If you are interested in helping that day, I'll be there, Ginger will be there, and we've fixed different time slots for if people want to sign up to do 30 minutes with helping us get individuals to take the survey or talking to individuals about the new center. So I'm going to pass this around. If you're interested, you can sign up to come join us and help us out that day.
So you're just gonna have one location, there?
We'll have a table set up with a tent, but we'll also have some people floating around. As you'll see here when you can sign up, we've got booth volunteer and then floater spots where you can sign up.
And the reason I ask is because the one that they had, I don't know, it may have been the first one on Broad Street, but they had different areas. And I know in the big field, they had a mass of people there, so I was wondering if we could have a table in either spot on Broad Street and one there. You know, because some might not even come on Broad Street.
Well, it'll depend on how many people can volunteer and help at one time so that we can disperse and be in two locations. But if not, we can definitely use somebody floating around with the iPad too.
We probably need that too.
Yeah.
Elijah, if I'm not mistaken, there's not supposed to be anybody on Broad Street. Everybody's supposed to be in the big field.
So the whole program is gonna be in the big field?
If I'm not mistaken, that's what it's supposed to be. For some reason I heard, I remember that.
Well, I'll reach out to Jamisha, either,
But I'll be
Someone-
walking around, because we're part of the security with the police officers. So I'll help, but I'll just send people to the tables.
Yeah, that's fine. You can
And
do
I
that.
could probably do more than an hour, so I put them in 2 slots.
That sounds good, thank you. So, the survey is the same questions we discussed last time, other than we added in, what was the thing we added in, Ginger?
We added in specifically like tutoring programs and educational support.
Okay.
Can we look at the survey as well?
Yeah, did I give you a copy? I thought I gave you a copy, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's the survey. So it's not, real elaborate, I think it's 5 questions, that way people don't have to stand there forever. I thought it was 5 questions, did we miss a page?
It was 3.
3 questions, okay. So it shouldn't take people a lot of time, but it'll give us some useful information on what they'd like to see.
So it starts at 12, out there, it starts at 12.
The parade is at 11. So, yeah, right after the parade, everything starts.
Where are the parades
The
start?
parade is going to be on 3rd Avenue, go down Broad Street to Roundtree.
Oh, okay.
Everybody ends up right there in front of Roundtree.
Correct. All right, any other questions regarding the Recreation Center or Henderson Park survey?
So these surveys that folks are going to do, you're gonna then take that data and compile it to look at what the community's asking for?
Yes, we'll do,
Say- Can you say that again, Curtis? I didn't.
I was saying the data, the surveys she's doing, is she gonna take them and, I guess, quantify them, put them, combine them, and then kind of give, I guess, like some feedback on, hey, this is what the community was asking for, and then how much of that input is actually gonna happen?
what the community wants.
Yes.
I mean, that's the point in doing it. We'll take that, and that's what we'll,
Well, we have, I mean, but we have
Work
those type of
from.
conversations all the time, and then those things don't necessarily, so that's why I was just asking. But
That's
you're
the
saying that's
goal.
gonna pull from it, for sure.
yes, that'll be the goal, that what the community says they want to see there. Those are the type of programs we will aim to provide.
And how much of the previous data that was done with the surveys that were done at the Omega Center, at the West New Bern, how much of that, those programs are gonna go into?
Well, I think that's something we'll have to look at, considering it, that would have been, gosh, several years now. So that data can be a little bit dated, and it may not give us the best.
So you're saying that?
I'm not saying it's not gonna be used. I mean, we can definitely pull from it
Mhm.
and compare it to what we get now and see if
So-
there's similarities.
Yeah, so folks said that, you know, there was, you know, after school programming then and now, it doesn't get as much attention. You're saying that that may not take place because it's been so long ago?
No,
Okay, so is that, so, but you're saying that information may not be relevant now? Because it's dated?
right, it could be, not be relevant because it's dated data. Some of those people who took those surveys, if it were parents or whatever, their kids may be 5 years older now, and they may not need the same services that they needed before.
I don't think it was 5 years ago, but I understand what you're saying, but I think, okay.
I really do, I think it should be factored in. The reason I'm saying, I'm kind of on the same line with Curtis is simply because when we had those meetings at those different locations, we had a mass of citizens that come out from all sides. And they put their input in, and I think it should be at least considered to be factored in. I don't care how long it's been, I think their opinions counted because they thought it did. So if we don't put it in there, at least try to use some of it, it'll be a mistake.
Yeah, and that's what I said, we would take it, compare it to some of the new data, see how they correlate. We also look at trend analysis to see what the current trends are, factor that in. There's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah, well, just like you were saying that some of the parent kids might be grown now.
Or they may be teenagers.
Yeah,
and-
but if they're teenagers, it's always a wave coming behind them. You know what I'm saying? And that's my point of view is. Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Any other questions?
We had a discussion dealing with some information that you may send to us when we get it this time.
Do what?
Information that you may send to us.
Regarding the subcontractor
Yeah.
minority? We'll send that out via email.
Appreciate it.
And, as we go forward and gather data, we will put them in charts or graphs, whatever best suits the information. We'll have the previous information, like I said, how they correlate to one another, and you guys will receive all that also.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about it is just kind of is interesting how you present that, because if the data that was used then to build now what's going to be Stanley White was used from years ago, why wouldn't you take the programming that people asked for then and at least combine it with this? I guess that's something I'm saying. Because it's all relative.
Right, and I said that's what we would do, but I'm saying that it's always important to get up-to-date data also.
Well, that's what it's got to do that. You guys have to do that. You have to do this public input again. It's not.
I'm not required to do this public input. I'm doing this survey because that's the recreation process. Like, I'm not required to do the survey.
There are some FEMA guidelines that you should still get some public input.
Right, but I'm saying in order to program, we don't necessarily have to do public input.
How would you get the public input then?
I'm saying there's not a requirement other than the certification and things that we follow, but there's no law that says,
There's some guidelines around getting more public input.
right, that's what I'm saying, the recreation process.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have anything else?
When will we have our next meeting? And will we have that meeting when it's called? Will we have designated space that we need to have in?
Well, as long as there's not a meeting that's been scheduled that wasn't on the calendar when I scheduled this one, then yes, we'll have it at the appropriate date and time.
Some of us had things already scheduled, and we need that meeting open for the time that we will have a meeting.
I understand, I left it open for that time as well, and I had no choice because it wasn't on the calendar as it should have been. Not ours, but another one, so. But yes, it'll be, that will be July 18th.
This year is going by pretty fast.
July 18th. I won't be here. Yeah, I already know. I'll be in New Mexico.
Oh. Okay. Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.